Welcome to the second episode of Understanding Korean Society series. The second part is about employment and work. In Korean, 취업과 직장. As you might know, the contents will be based on KIIP Level 5 textbook, so some doesn't really reflect up-to-date news or up-to-date trend. In that case, if there's a significance to that, I will try my best to introduce to you. But as you might know, I won't be able to cover everything in this video. Some of the contents are very difficult to cover in this short video. In that case, you might require to do your own further research, but I will also try to leave you guys some resources to take a look at it. So moving on, the first section we are going to talk is about 한국 직장 생활의 특징. So the first thing we're going to discuss is the characteristics of Korean workplaces. Legally, if you're over 15, you can start getting a job, normally part-time jobs. And people retire around 60 years. And it's more common to get a full-time job after you graduate high school or university or college. But since it's getting more difficult to get a job, which is called 취업난 in Korean, the average age for getting a first full-time job is higher and higher. So if there were someone who just graduated their university 2 decades ago or 3 decades ago, I would say that the first age to get a full-time job for them will be around 22, 23, which is right after their graduation from universities. But nowadays, the companies require, in Korean, they call it as spec, which there's something the company wants much more on the contents in resume wise. So the college students have to have some more experience doing the internship, a lot of extra activities, need to require a lot of certificates, qualifications. Sometimes it's not mandatory, but since the market is very competitive, decide to get those qualifications and certificates, you just have no choice but to have it too. Otherwise, you're going to be left out. That is how the employment market looks like. And another feature to remember is that there are more and more people who get a new job or opening up their own business after the retirement due to increase of average lifespan. So Korea is one of the countries who have longer average lifespan. So let's say if you retire around 60 years old, you still have another 30 years to go. Some people have no choice but to get another job to make a living, but sometimes some people just like to have a job or something to do. And some people consider it as their opportunity to make their dream come true, so they start a new business, open up their own shop. So it's very common. And the last section here now is a bit controversial. So it says, 많은 사람들이 공무원과 같은 안정적인 직업을 선호합니다. The first section says it. It means that a lot of people prefer a stable job like government agent. I think it could have been true until 2 years ago or even 1 year ago. But now a lot of people feel like it's not valuable enough to only pursue stability as a condition to get a job. So some people want to get more adventurous, or some people just simply want to get paid more. There are many factors affecting that, but it is true that the popularity of stable job such as government officials, are getting lower and lower. And next section talks about some people wants to get a job from major corporates, which provides higher wage and has better welfare system. And this is true. Who doesn't like better welfare system and high wage? But one thing you have to understand is that major corporates like Samsung and LG, not everyone in Korea can work there. Only a few people can have a job there, but it's an admirable job for a lot of people. And to be honest, a lot of people still work in 중소기업, which is SMEs. And it's more common to open up their own business or own shop. So there are diversity there. But still, it is true that most of people work in SMEs. And now, the second section is about women's economic activity. In Korean, it's called 여성의 경제활동. So we are going to talk about women in workforces. So nowadays, it's more common for women to get a job, work as a full-time employee just like men. So in Korean, we call it 여성의 사회 진출이 활발해졌다. It means that there are active participation of women in workforces or in the society. And this also means that we have more and more households where both partners have a job. In Korean, it's called 맞벌이 부부. There are more and more households where two partners both have jobs. And another thing they're talking about is that, inevitably there are imbalances or inequalities between men and women, depending on where the job field are. However, there are efforts to reduce the imbalance, and there are efforts to introduce more policies that trying to resolve inequality between men and women, especially during the employment process or even working culture. So this is sort of a social movement that becoming more popular and more common. And there are education and policies coming through to help out women who had to put their career on pause to go through the pregnancy, giving birth, and raising children. And we call it in Korean as 경력이 단절되는 여성. So it's like women who had to put their career on pause. And in Korean, in short, we call them 경단. Sorry about my writing. It's not exactly a good tool to write you guys something, but I wanted to introduce the vocabulary to you. There are more welfare policies coming through to support women who play both roles of raising children, which is 육아, and work on a full-time job. However, from now on, I'm going to talk about something that would not be on your KIIP textbook or on your exam, but sort of a up-to-date trend, which is there are a lot of social movements going on to resolve inequality or imbalance between men and women in workplaces. However, we're only at the beginning of the stage. We just started discussion. And there are more discussion about the word of 유리천장, which is glass ceiling. And another interesting slogan or phrase that I witnessed is 동일노동, 동일임금, meaning that if men and women play same labor and same duty and same job description, the company should pay them same wage. So This also means that if there's a difference in job description, there's difference in their task, and some people somehow play more difficult roles or taking more risk, there should be some differences in there for sure. However, if two people, regardless of gender, if they work the same task and same duty, there should be same wage. That's the idea of this phrase and slogan, and it's more common to witness this slogan and phrase nowadays. And for the women who had to put their career on pause for pregnancy, giving birth, and raising children, Korean government trying their best to introduce all kinds of policies and welfare system to help out these women. However, in my own opinion, I think we have to put more change into the society itself, because it is more considered as women's job to raise children. However, raising children is a different story. Fathers nowadays want to be involved and can be involved as much as they want. Just the society feels it as unacceptable. So it is still very difficult for fathers to put on paternity leave to take care of their children unless they're working for the government, because it is very uncommon and you have no idea what's going to be the consequences. For women who were pregnant and giving birth, and then that became the cause of the career pause, it is society's duty to see it different, because companies try to avoid them, because if they're going through pregnancy, they're going to be maternity leave, which means that they have to find someone as a substitute while they are on leave. And that's kind of one of the reasons that companies try to avoid women going through pregnancy, or have a plan to get pregnant. They either want them to quit their job or try to do their best to let these women go. I'm saying that there are improvements and changes coming in. However, still, it's not that big of a difference yet. So we still have a lot to work on. And it's an ongoing issue in Korean society. So not just for the KIIP exam, but if you want to understand Korean society, I think it's also important to understand what is the ongoing discussion. And considering the low birth rate in Korean society, this is definitely something to think about. And moving on, we're going to talk about 한국의 직장 문화. 직장 문화. 직장 is work or workplace, and 문화 is culture. So we're talking about the working place culture. First, 업무 시간, which is working hours. There's differences depending on working places, but majority of the company prefer 9 to 6. And they have about 1 hour of lunchtime. Another vocabulary we see is 야근, which is working late at night. And this is because after 9 to 6, your usual 9 to 6, if there's more work to do, and if you have to do it by today, some people choose to work extra, and this is considered as 야근. And another term is 주 5일 근무제, meaning you work 8 hours a day, 40 hours per week. And most companies want their employee to work 8 hours a day per 5 days per week. So we call them 주 5일제, meaning you work 5 days per week. Normally, we work from Monday to Friday, and take our weekends off. But as same as many other countries, there are places where the employees work during the weekend and take their weekday off. So it varies, but typically this is more common to have 5 days per week, 8 hours a day. And another vocabulary to see is 주 52시간 근무제. This is a system or law saying that employees cannot work more than 52 hours per week. So we already work 40 hours per week by going to work 5 times a week, right? So the only extra work you can do is about 12 hours. So 40 hours plus 12 hours plus into 52 hours. There are discussions, or has been discussions about whether to increase the system to the employers to have more room to work, meaning they want more than 52 hours. But a lot of people are opposed to the idea, and it's still ongoing discussion, but currently not going to change anytime soon. And another system we talk is 최저임금제. In English, this is minimum wage. So to guarantee the living standards or life of the employee, there's a law that the employer should pay them at least this much. You need to pay them minimum this. That is the minimum wage. So, for example, hypothetically, in a society where the law says that the minimum wage per hour is $9, then the employer has to pay at least $9 per hour, just like the law says. That's the minimum wage, and Korea accepts the system of minimum wage. However, nowadays it's more common to have 탄력 근무제, which is flexible working hours, and also there's workplaces who prefer shifts, and there's 재택근무, which is work from home. And during the COVID, there are a lot of companies who chose to do work from home instead of bringing them all to the office. And a lot of people really loved the idea and got used to the idea, I think. So some companies still provide their employees an option to take some of their weekly hour as work from home days. So not every company does it, but still some company does it. So that's the 업무 시간, the working hour that we talk. We talked about working hour. We're going to talk about 업무 외 시간, which is outside of working hour. One thing you're going to see is 회식. 회식 is basically gather up. You gather up with your coworkers after your working hours. You either have a meal together or drink together, and then they just get close together. And if there's something to celebrate, they do it. But it's different from your friendly gathering with your coworker. It's more like your bosses will be there. To be fair, there are still hierarchies in workplaces in Korea. It's not that free and flexible. So imagine that you have to go to some 회식, gather up, and all your bosses will gonna be there. And some people just don't like the idea because, some people prefer to spend their time with their family. And I think it was pretty, nobody says it's mandatory, but in some of the companies, it's considered as a mandatory that you have to be there. But simply there are people who prefers to, go back to their family after work. So the perspective towards this 회식 has been changing. And some people feel it like it's a stressful to have to participate in this 회식. So next part is 변화하는 회식 문화, which is changing 회식 culture. So now Koreans also consider work and life balance as important. It's becoming more common to not to force someone to participate 회식. Some company prefer to just simple gather up to do, to watch the movie together or do some extra activities together, or some companies just do it as team lunch instead of going to have some drink or dinner together, because people wants to go back to their family or spend their own time after work. So it's definitely changing culture, but I wouldn't say this is the majority of culture yet. Still, if there's 회식, it's like the same as peer pressure. You don't have to. It's not a law, but there's a peer pressure, and then you just have to be there. And not every workplaces are like that, but it's still a lot of companies have the culture, but it's changing. And I think this is it for us today. We talked about the working culture and what it's like to get a job, what it's like to work in Korea, what it's like to be a woman in this society, or what kind of working culture we have. Obviously, I did not explain everything. I did not go into every detail for this because it's simply I cannot do it in this short video. But I still covered key points and important parts to study for this part. So you should be fine using this as a substitute to study your KIIP Level 5. And for people who are just simply interested in Korean culture or Korean society, I think I've covered pretty much enough. For people who have worked in Korea, who are thinking about getting a job in Korea, you guys know that this is not it. This is not about everything. However, this is enough to touch base to study your KIIP Level 5 and understanding Korean society. So that's it for today. I'm gonna coming back with next episode and dive more into understanding Korea. Thank you for coming in today, and please subscribe and thumbs up for more videos. Until next time, stay tuned.